Welcome to the Money Watch Show. It's Thursday, April 11th, and it's kind of like high pressure tax week. And that's why we are devoting both shows this week to recent segments that I have done on CBS Mornings. And here's one that just blows my mind because every year around this time, the IRS releases this list of crazy scams that are going on. And they usually peak during tax season. And Mark, have you ever been a victim of a scam like this? Like any of these things? Just received something like a text or something?
I personally have not, but Amanda very recently, a few months ago, almost got nailed. She got one of these random phone calls. You know, the caller ID looks legit, everything looks legit, and it was supposedly the NYPD saying that her credit had been compromised and blah, 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 blah. And she's on the phone with these people. And as she's on the phone with them, she's texting me saying, I'm talking to NYPD and they're telling me all this stuff. And at first, I didn't really think anything of it. And then I immediately picked up the phone right away. And I'm like, hang up the phone right now. This is a scam.
How did you know?
Because she was telling me, some of the things she was telling me, it just didn't make sense. I'm like, first of all, this wouldn't be NYPD calling you. And she's telling me about the guys and like accents. And I said, what are their names? And one of the guy's last name was like Murphy, Uh-huh. And yet she said he had like a Indian accent. I said, hang up the phone. This is a scam.
Oh my God. What's amazing is that this is like the number one thing, which is fake communications from something that seems legit, right? So it could be a police person, it could be a state tax agency or the IRS. So that to me is like the big issue. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to make sure that we do this. We're going to play the segment that aired last week on CBS Mornings. This is me with Nate Burleson, one of the co-anchors. And it's really about this IRS Dirty Dozen list. And again, this is the peak time for scams. This is a barrage of emails and text scams, and they target taxpayers and anyone else. So I know this stinks. You got to be prepared. So let's play the segment, and Mark and I'll come back on the other side of it.
In today's Money Watch, we are talking about tax scams. The latest IRS list of the so-called Dirty Dozen. Now, that's a rundown of the most common scams the agency sees, especially during tax filing season. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here to break it all down. How you doing, Jill?
Doing well.
All right, so first on this year's list, a scam designed to steal sensitive taxpayer information or phishing scams. Break this down for us.
Phishing, and you ready for this? Smishing. SMS or text messaging.
Okay.
Just think about this. Before you even consider scams, remember that the IRS is not texting you, and the IRS is not actually sending you an email.
Okay, say that again. You have to say that again.
They're not emailing you. So put your big defense mechanism up, and also know that they'll only call you if you've actually been notified by mail prior. So what we're trying to do is identify any inbound communication that seems to be from the IRS or from a state tax agency. They are preying on fear and greed. Fear, we're freezing your account. Greed, you've got a tax refund. You get something like that, especially if it's time sensitive, then you just run the other way.
Hook, line, and sinker. They get you right there. All right, so for people who want to set up online accounts with the IRS, there are also people scamming those folks.
Exactly. And so we talked about this earlier this week. I said, hey, go to the irs.gov, set up your own account. There are now inbound solicitations of companies that are saying, we'll set up the account for you. They are phishing or smishing you. They're trying to get your personal information so they can set up an account, get your personal information, file returns for you. Only do this yourself at irs.gov.
All right. So what is check washing?
Okay, this is like an old school scam gang. And it is not part of the Dirty Dozen yet, but this is rampant across the country.
How does it work?
Basically, thieves go into a mailbox, they pull out checks, they use nail polish remover, they take they basically wash the amount, they then steal it and cash it. Okay, this is important. To avoid this, try to go to your local post office to deposit your checks. Be very careful. Monitor your accounts. Use black gel pens because they're harder to mess with. Be on alert, my friends.
So this was late 90s when this was really happening. Now these old school scams are coming back.
So, Mark, I was laughing because when I first got this email from the IRS, there's now a new thing. It's not just phishing, it's called smishing. And smishing is basically a text that's claiming to be from the IRS. So again, gang, just don't open any of this stuff. Don't do anything. And if someone calls you on the phone from a law enforcement agency, hang up. Just say, "What's precinct are you from?" Get the precinct number, hang up, and then call the precinct. Then look up what the actual precinct numbers is, and you can call them back. But do not stay on the phone with these folks. That's a huge piece of this, right? Also, I just think what is completely insane is that there is this immediacy to some of these calls that you have to be very careful. This is on purpose, right? This is on purpose that they are actually saying, you know, you have to do this, you have to act now, or hurry up, that your account is locked down. These are all really important things to remember. You never need to respond to a tax-related email or text message. Just report everything, anything unsolicited, and report that to phishing@irs.gov. That's a biggie. That's a real biggie. I also noticed that one of the big scams is like kind of not a scam so much as a ripoff. And the IRS said has like one of their dirty dozen is beware of offer in compromise mills. Now, what they mean is these are firms that are enticing you to settle your tax debts. Okay. They're saying, hey, we'll get you a better settlement with the IRS. Now, the deal is that these so-called plans, they're just charging massive fees for something that you can do directly at irs.gov. And, you know, it's a weird thing. It's just close enough to a real offer that you think you should take them up on it. Because there is something called an offer in compromise, which is a legitimate IRS program that allows qualifying taxpayers to work with the IRS to settle a tax debt for less than the full amount owed. Okay. That is like we talked about that with short-term and long-term payment plans, but this is actually a real plan. So the thing is that you have to do this directly with the IRS. You should not have anyone else involved. No third party. So an offer in compromise agreement is a direct negotiation between you and the IRS without a third party, unless like you have a CPA or a tax preparer who's working with you and you know. All right. So these are called OIC, offer in compromise mills. They make exaggerated claims. It's not unlike these ones that say, oh, I'm going to negotiate with your credit card company for you. No, they're not going to. And Mark, the last thing I did on this segment was talk about this check washing scheme, which makes me insane. This is happening a lot. So no mailing of checks. This is the Mark Tolaire show. Please don't mail your checks, right?
No, in our old neighborhood, I guess this is a little indication as to why we moved, but in our old neighborhood, there's a mailbox out front of our complex. And anytime I would go to use it, I would always put my hands under it. And you could just feel all the sticky stuff that the thieves put under there.
Oh, that's how they do
mail.
It. They catch it, they pull it out, they then take nail polish remover, they wipe out the amount. It's huge. I have to tell you something. I found this to be like such an old school weirdo fraud that I wanted to bring it back just to talk about it because you know what? If you're going away, have your mail held, don't mail at your drop-off box, go to the post office, check your account regularly. I think that a lot of things that we are subject to scam-wise, that a lot of it can be really snuffed out if you're keeping an eye on your accounts. And that's why you should be monitoring this. All right, that is our public service of tax week. I hope everyone enjoyed that. It's so hard. It's like one of the guys, cameraman, told me this during the week, and he was telling me like a terrible scam story about his mom. And he goes, it's something else. I said, I know. It's like the weirdest thing is that so much of our lives is like defensive driving for your life, right? It's like, yes, you're defensive driving on the road. You have to cross the street watching, looking back and forth a million different ways because people in these cities are riding city bikes and different electric bikes and they go in the wrong way. You're worried about your mom's tax fraud. You're worried about your own scams. You're worried about your medical. It's exhausting, Mark. I can't do it anymore. Well, it's been a delightful show. I'm sorry. We'll be more upbeat next week, I promise. Don't forget, all of our content lives on JillOnMoney.com. Click the Contact Us button if you've got a question, write your note, and if you want to join us on the air, just make sure you check that box. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Jill on Money Live on our website. You can also buy my book, The Great Money Reset. Check out our YouTube show also, Jill on Money, powered by The Compound. Mark Talercio is the co-host and executive producer and the king of all things web. We're distributed by Paramount Global. We drop our episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen and try to do something nice for someone else today. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.